Okay, now so as discussed in the overview and the introduction part, we have discussed that what we need here is that we need three servers at least, and then we need a MySQL router, and we need a client to interact, our MySQL shell to interact or to administer our MySQL cluster. So this is our first server, MySQL 1, MySQL 2 and MySQL 3, and then we have our MySQL router here, and we need what I have told you, that we need three servers, and MySQL should be installed on them as well, MySQL. And so I have installed MySQL on all of three of my server, which is going to be the part of cluster for the group replication. And as you see here, all three of them have MySQL cluster, and then we have MySQL shell install on them as well. So dash dash version. So you see here MySQL shell is also installed over here, and same is the case with this one as well. So if you don't know how to install MySQL server, you can go back into my videos, and you can see how to install MySQL using yum repository, or using binary tarball like generic tarball, or you do it you using MySQL what do you say, that's packages as well. And I will show you how to install MySQL shell on this server, which is MySQL router. It's not required here to install on MySQL router, but in case you want to install it on this one, like other three servers, which is necessary for that. So I will just for the testing purpose, like just to show you here, I will install it here as well, and then we will install MySQL router as well. And so that's how we can meet our prerequisite. And on the server level prerequisite, it is necessary that your firewall should be disabled. So if you see here my firewall, uh, then firewall, sorry guys, firewall, so it's dead, it's not running. And if you see here my SE Linux status, I have also disabled that. So these two things should be disabled on all of your servers. And if I haven't disabled it here, so I will just show you here how you can disable a firewall. You should first, you need to stop the firewall, and then you should be able to disable it. So in case for the future, if you want to start your uh, firewall, so it doesn't come up. So that's how you can stop and disable your firewall. And if you want to like disable your SE Linux, that's all you need to go is here, and that uh, cat /etc SE Linux. So this is the file. All you need to do is here to SE Linux is equal to disabled, and then reboot your server. So these should be all the prerequisite you should meet before starting or installing or configuring your MySQL InnoDB cluster. And to start with the MySQL router, this is the link from where you can download your RPM. And you can also find this link on on MySQL official website. So let me download this, and this is the RPM which we are going to install now. So let me just copy paste so we don't go into any error. So now it's done, and let's install our MySQL shell first. This RPM work for MySQL router, MySQL shell, and any other MySQL services, MySQL server, or any other MySQL tools you want to install. So that's it, only that repository you need to create. So now this will install MySQL shell. And so once this is done, I will so obviously this will be done soon. It won't take any much time. So let's wait so this can be installed. So before going to that, let me tell you about something. MySQL InnoDB cluster, it's provide a lot of like high availability solution, and this is like provide you the failover, automatic failover, and a lot of things. This is very easy to manage, and the current version I'm going to using is 8.0.22, and in the future, in the next videos, I will be telling you how we can upgrade any of the node, like minor upgradation of any of the nodes in rolling mode, like with zero downtime. So if you see here, I have MySQL sh installed, and this is working fine now. Okay, so that's how you install MySQL Shell, and then we install MySQL Router here. This will take a little bit of time because my internet speed is not that good. So if this was that good, it wouldn't have taken a lot of time from us. You can skip this installation part if you want. Okay guys, so MySQL Router is done. I guess I'm using this. Yeah, so MySQL Router is also installed now, and it's fine. So let's start with configuring our MySQL instances. And in order to configure our MySQL instances, first we need to configure them that they are like healthy for addition into the MySQL cluster. So in order to do that, let's connect to our MySQL server using MySQL Shell to the only first one. I'm connected to the first one, and from here we will do a lot of things. So it didn't ask me for the password because I already stored the password, and if you log in into the first time, it will ask for you if you want to save the password. Then I save the password, like I've given the input as yes, then it not asking me for the password. So then let's configure our instance. And first, because if you're saying, you see, user root can only connect to from localhost, and new accounts with proper source address specification it's required. So what we are going to do here is that we will create our admin for the cluster, and let me give it a name, and it will require a password as well, like this, and confirm the password. Okay, so it requires some changes because this is the basic requirement of configuring your instance for the cluster. It will enforce the GTID consistency to on, and GTID mode will be on, and it will provide the server ID. So let's give it a yes. So now our instance has been configured, and let's see what's happening. Okay, let's provide the password. So this is, now I'm checking that what is the status of my InnoDB MySQL 1. So this is called DBA.check instance configuration. So it should okay, using password, we can do it like this as well. InnoDB cluster at localhost. So this should work. What's the problem? Is anything wrong? InnoDB cluster. Find the password. Okay, I was giving the wrong password. Okay, so so this status should be okay, and so I was like copying this password, and sorry, but my password for the InnoDB cluster is this one. So you should get this. Okay, so if I do not configure it, and if I go for like the other one, before that let's do the, so this will give you error. Let's say currently is the user is not there, so I think don't think so that on the second row, yes, obviously, but you need to configure it, because if you didn't configure it, all you will run into this error, and it won't let you add the instance into the cluster. Okay, so let's repeat all this step on the other nodes as well here, like connect to this one, and yeah, configure the instance and select to provide the InnoDB cluster. So this is my account for the cluster, and yes, changes, yes. Now let's check this instance and provide the password here as well. No, this one. Let me save it. So this is how it asks that save password. So you see, so status is okay now, and let's do the next one as well, the last one, and this is okay. So dba.configure instance, yes, create the user here as well, and the username is InnoDB cluster, password is strong password 1. Okay, so yes, and let's test our last one. Okay, so now this is configured as well. Okay, something is wrong here. Okay, I didn't provided the password, and it's asking for password. Yes, save it, and now if you see here, all of the statuses are okay, and the last one is also okay. So now this is the time, so we can create our InnoDB cluster. So for that we need to connect our first, and we need to use the InnoDB cluster user which we created here, like this user we created here, this one. So we will be using our InnoDB cluster user to create our cluster. So let's connect inside the shell. /c means connect to InnoDB cluster at MySQL 1 port 3306, and it's asking for the password, and the password is here, strong password, and tell him to save it. And so now we are connected to MySQL 1. Before we were connected to here the local host, like mean only shell, we weren't connected to any like, so this is how now we are connected. And let's create our MySQL cluster. I'm loading the object into this variable, so we can use this variable different functions directly. So now it will create InnoDB cluster for us. So it's adding the seeds now. So if you see here, adding the seed instance, cluster successfully created, use cluster.add instance to add more instances, and it's saying that at least 3 instances are needed to for the cluster to be able to withstand up to 1 server failure. So now you see here that what I did here, that I created here, yeah, this variable mycls. So now if I see here mycls.status, you will see here that the cluster name here is saying that this is the primary server, and it's saying that cluster is not tolerant for any failure. So obviously, because we need at least 3 servers to make it for tolerant, and topology mode is single primary. We can also make it multiple primary, but we will do this in different in another tutorial as well. So you can also do describe, it will tell you what is the configuration of your cluster. So now it's time to add more servers, and I'm adding MySQL 2 here, the port 3306. MyCLS dot add instance. So I think the spellings was wrong. Yes. So now it's asking for the password. Obviously, this is the password, InnoDB cluster, and save it, yes. And I was, yes, default is clone, so we can clone it. And the clone, what does the clone, that it lock your server for the shared read lock, and then once it's get all the information, it will lock your instance for backup, and then it clone everything to the other server. So it does require a little a small amount of locks, or small amount of DMLs and DDLs locks. So it won't allow you to DDLs and DML for a specific time, and it's best to do these things, do this clone when you are not doing any DDL specifically. So the clone should be consistent, so on the server, so you don't get into any errors or any data inconsistency. So it's now cloning. The default is clone. All you need to do is just enter, or you can see the, if you see here, because this is a very small server and the cloning is done, it's saying that MySQL is shutting down this server. It's not this server, but it's shutting down the MySQL 2. So now it's going to restart that, and once this is come back, we will be provided. So you see here 250 MB of data has been transferred in about 1 second. This is very fast. The clone is very fast because it's use multiple threads, and this do everything in a very fast manner. So what we did here is we use this one. Now we are going to say that add this third instance as well, which is MySQL 3. Okay, and provide the password for InnoDB cluster user, and we say that it says, you can save it, enter, or you can say C. So it's both are the same thing. So you can also go for incremental as well. Incremental won't restart your server, and it will copy like in incremental mode. So that is also safe. And if you want to study like what does incremental mean, then you can see here. Once this is done, here is tell you somewhere, I guess. Yes, yeah, here the incremental state recovery may be safely used, and the safest mode consistent is provisioned through the clone, automatic, and all that. And this information is given is here as well. You can read it from here. So now if I want to know that what is the current configuration of MySQL this InnoDB cluster. So I created this variable, and you see here cluster. So you see here now cluster is online and can tolerate up to 1 failure, because now we have added 2 more instances in our server, and single primary mode, our primary is MySQL 1, and the other 2 are secondary. As you can see here, they are read-only. Mode is only read-only, and the primary one, which is MySQL 1, is having a read and write mode. So you can only read to this server, this node, and the other 2 nodes like MySQL 3 and MySQL 2 will be used only for your what do you say, for read-only modes. So now let's do that. Let's create our router account. I can say create router account. It must be here. Okay, so I guess let me check what was the setup mycls dot. So now is sorry, from mycls, and we have okay, so member router invalid attribute. Let me see mycls dot setup admin account. Yeah, this one, setup router account. Let's say my router, provide the password for my router. I'm using this password. Confirm the pass, because this user will be used for bootstrapping our router user. So okay, so now let's use this account. This is our bootstrap means, so this is our cluster. I'm going the cluster, and this is a directory where it will be storing all the configuration minus dme. And let's go to our MySQL router and configure our MySQL router. So okay, is saying that you should use the root user. We can do it another way as well, from this command. Because I knew it I might run into problems, so we will do it from this, and we will provide the password for the cluster, and the cluster password should be this one. Oh, sorry guys, I given the wrong name. This should be like InnoDB cluster. Okay, where is it? Yeah, here. I think this one should also work now. No, this one has some issues, I guess. I need to check on that, but we can do it from here, this one. And the password for this is strong password. So now if you see here, cluster has been configured, I think it's running as well. Yeah, it was already running. And now if you see here, it has given us two port, 6446 is for read write, and 6447 is for read write. So this is how you can configure it, and let me show you that how it's working. So so let me do it. I have this command here, and before that let me log in to the first user. Let me create and do some data insertion. So you should know that that our data is copying to the other server as well. So select host name. Let me show you. I'm currently connected to MySQL 1. /SQL means that change your mode to the SQL mode, and if you see here, now it's in SQL mode. So if you want to go back to JavaScript mode, that's how you go to JavaScript mode and then get back to SQL mode as well. So let's create a database and then use the school. Okay, some problem. Okay, well, let's log into using root user /SQL and create a database school, and then say use school. Okay, because the cluster user didn't had these privileges to create database and all that, so that's why. And let's do some insertion as well. Okay, so now you see here we have now now we can see that it is the first server. If I show you that host name, and it has this data. Okay, now let's connect to our second server. Okay, so this one, and let's go to this user. If I see here, it's MySQL 2, and if I do the select static from this server, if you see here, the data is already here as well, and the other server as well, /SQL, and see here, data is also here as well. And if you want to know which server I'm sending here, /host name is MySQL 3. And now you want to like why we have configured this MySQL router. So for that, why we have done it? So obviously to connect to our MySQL cluster. So MySQL router is used for obviously load balancing. So let's see how our load balancing will work. So I have created a Docker image here, and in that Docker image, like if you see here, Docker ps -a. Okay, Docker ps it's not running. So Docker ps -a, sorry. So now let me start my images. Docker start. I have some images here. This one, what's the name? Yeah, 3 and 4. And then I guess we have 1. Okay, leave it. We have now one of our Docker is up and running. Health is starting. This one, the fourth one is starting. So when this is running, we will do that. So now it's healthy, and I can see that now we can connect our client number 4, and I'm going to use this MySQL router, and we will connect. I think we have the 4 is running. Yes, okay, yes. Mm-hmm. There's an issue with the while. I need to require spaces, and okay, the reason is that I haven't provided the InnoDB cluster password here, this one. Oh, and provide my password as well, and this was the password, because I will be using this InnoDB cluster password, and you can use another user as well if you want. I hope so this will work. If it does not, in it, because this might does not have any, yeah. So if you see here, it's working and is getting the information, but I don't want that. Let me edit the QE, because what I want to know is that how the router is going to work. So for that, let me edit this. Now if you see here, it's connecting to MySQL 1, because I have told you that I'm using the port number 646, and you see here the port 646 is for read and write, so it will only go to that port. Okay, so it is only going to go to that port. And if I clone this session and I go for this as well again, and I say let's use 47, now if you see here, it's gonna go for MySQL 1, then MySQL 3, MySQL 2, then MySQL 3. It's going in the round robin mode, because the port I use is 6447, and that port is used for read only. Okay, so this is how your MySQL is working. For the port number 6446 is going only for the MySQL 1, because that is current hourly or primary, and it's going to that. So in case I go for here and I kill my systemctl stop MySQL 1, sorry, MySQL D. So I'm stopping MySQL server here, and now if you see here, you see it's started to connect into MySQL 1. Before it was MySQL, and let's stop this so I can show you that what happened. It was going to MySQL 1 and MySQL 1, okay, and by the time I got my server killed, then it's going to MySQL 3. And if you see here, it will only go to MySQL 2 now, because this port, this is executing on the MySQL port 6447. So, and that is only for your cluster is only having 2, so that is the only read only. So if I come here and check like variable cls dot cls is equal to dba dot get, sorry, it's not in JavaScript mode, slash and variable cls, any variable you want to name, dba dot get, come on man, yeah, this one, get cluster, and my cluster name was this was my cluster name, where it is, yeah, this one. And now if I see here, what's wrong? Okay, sorry, I need to connect to this user first, because he only knows about the cluster. because that is the cluster administration account. And come on, man. It is denied for DBA.get cluster. Okay, sorry, that was my fault. I had to connect to MySQL 2 because obviously MySQL 1 is not available. So sorry for that, guys. I wasted your time. Now got the password. Yes, save it. And now we are connected to MySQL 2. Before, like last time I provided the password, it went into the error. I didn't check that. Now let's get the cluster here and cls dot status. If you see here, now this one is missing. Okay, because we stopped the MySQL 1 and our primary server is MySQL 3 and our MySQL 2 is on read-only mode, and the tolerant is changed. The cluster is not tolerant and it's not safe. Okay, so now let's say start our MySQL server 1, and if now is starting mode, and if you see here now cluster status is now back online because we didn't do any insertion or anything to, so it didn't require any copy to copy the data from the other server. But our primary will still be MySQL 3 and we need to change that. So we will do this everything and playing around things around MySQL cluster in the next tutorial. And if you see here, or now if you see here, going to MySQL 1 and MySQL 2 because we have 2 now, and this is still going to MySQL 3. It's not going. Okay, so this is still will going to MySQL 3 because that is the only rewrite available node, and it's going to MySQL 1 MySQL 2 because we have MySQL 2 and MySQL 1 as a read only. And we were going to the, because we were using the port 6447, so that's why it's going to that. So okay guys, thank you so much for watching this tutorial, and I hope so you have liked it. And I went into error, yes obviously, but we solved it, and this help us to know how to troubleshoot things. And if you get into error, please let me know in the comment section. I will solve it for you. Thank you so much.